Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite formats to play fantasy sports in, and that is a fantasy golf one and done. If you have never played one and done before, we are going to explain to you the rule set real quick. We are going to give you all the tips and tricks and strategies you need in order to win playing fantasy golf one and done. And basically just we're going to map out an entire season of one and done here on this show. So that way, if you are new to playing one and done, or if you're a one and done veteran, you can get anything you need in order to be prepared and feel comfortable and feel good, feel like you have a plan heading into the 2025 PGA Tour season. And if you have never played a golf one and done before, but after listening to this episode or watching this episode, you feel compelled to play, we're going to have our own one and done. However, it is not available just yet. So please reach out to me in the comments or reach out to me on Twitter at Mike's Money Picks if you would like to be in our golf one and done. It's likely to be a $25 entry. That way, it's not too much money that people are going to have to be committed to for 6 months. But, it'll just be a way that if you want to compete against us and with us and all of our friends and family, then let me know so that way I can get you an invite so that way you can be in our golf one and done. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive in. If it sounds a little bit differently to you, I did actually get a new podcast microphone for Christmas. So, hopefully it sounds a little bit better than it did before, but, just letting you guys know if you are hearing this a little bit differently, then it's not your computer. It's something on my end. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's start talking one and done. All right, so here is the premise of a fantasy golf one and done. Basically, it is as it sounds, one and done. What you do every single week is you pick one golfer for the PGA Tour tournament that's being played that week, and you cannot pick that golfer again for the end of the season. And so given that there is about 30 events that you're going to be picking, you're going to have to be picking some guys that aren't necessarily just the top names at the top of the leaderboard every single week. So, you're going to have to know a little bit about golf in order to be successful. But, depending on what software you're using, you can certainly, have a vibe for who is the best golfers in the field that week. If you just look up betting odds or, there's some places that they sort, the golfers that are playing that week, and you can just see who the top picks are, right? So you don't have to do a whole lot of extenuating research if you want to be good at one and done. But here's the bottom line. You have to pick winners, because the way that one and dones are scored are usually by the dollar amount that is won at the golf tournament, right? And I don't know if you guys know a whole lot about PGA Tour purses, but you get significantly more money for winning than you do for not winning. Now, there's some tournaments where you can still get a good payday for runner-up, third place, or, a T2 or something like that. But winning at the end of the day is what gets you the most money. And if you want to just kind of skate by, you want to definitely make cuts. Getting $0 by picking a guy who misses the cut is like one of the worst things that can happen in one and done. So you not only want a made cut, but you want a guy who has upside to win as well. And also, the way the PGA Tour does the schedule, this is the first kind of like little trick for one and done. The way the PGA Tour does the schedule, there are what's known as signature events. The first one is the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, where those signature events are smaller fields. A lot of them are no-cut events, and they feature significantly higher purses. So it's going to be even more important that you get correct the signature events in terms of who you're picking, as well as the majors with who you're picking, because at the majors, it's going to be a big payday like the signature events, but there's a big old cut, and there's also live golfers available at the majors. So basically, that's how we're going to do our show today. We're going to talk about the picking the majors, picking the signature events, and then the rest of the PGA Tour events. But at the end of the day, like I said, one and done is about picking winners. One of my best friends, Zach, he actually won our one and done last year, and he did it by honestly not having some ridiculous made cut streak, not having this ridiculous top 10 streak, but by picking a lot of winners. I believe he had Scotty at the Players. I know he had Rory at the Wells Fargo. He had Xander at the PGA. He had Bryson at the US Open. Like, he just had a lot of big time winners. And that's really at the end of the day how you're going to get it done, is by picking winners. So we're going to try to find here on this show how you can strategize an entire season. And hopefully we're going to end up finding some winners. I did this same show last season, which is actually what you're looking at on YouTube, where I did my selections for last year. And I actually had a decent amount of winners that I picked before the season starts. I had Scotty at the Players. I had Rory at the Wells Fargo. I had Bryson DeChambeau at the U.S. Open, and I had Robert McIntyre at the Scottish Open. So the fact that I had 4 winners picking a show in December is pretty good in my opinion, honestly. So we're going to try to do that here again today. What we're going to do I've kind of been alluding to this a few times, is we're going to pick the entire season of a PGA Tour schedule from a one and done perspective, go over the strategy for our picking of each event and each golfer that goes into it. And I really think this is a good exercise because it kind of gets you in the mindset of, hey, I can only use this guy once, or what course do I want to use this guy at? What time of the year do I want to use this guy at? What type of event do I want to use this guy at? So we're going to go through the whole calendar season live as we're here on the show. And we're going to just go through and pick it. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to start picking. All right, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can see our 2025 version of the one and done planning spreadsheet. If you would like to use this for your one and done, then the link is in the description on YouTube as well as on the audio feed. Just make sure it is a Google Doc, so just make sure that you make a copy. It will not let you edit it until you make a copy. That's how I have it designed. So make sure you make a copy if you want to use it. But I find it is a great tool just to kind of map out your selections, especially if you're in multiple one and dones, which I do plan on being in multiple one and dones. So let's go ahead and start off things with the majors. So why I want to start off with the majors is these are the only 4 events where you can pick live golfers. However, last year, it was not exactly a big time plus EV move to pick live golfers. Bryson was really the only live guy that played all that well at the Masters. Bryson was the number 1 live guy at the PGA. Bryson was the number 1 live guy at the US Open. And there was, at the end of the day, at the Open Championship, there was not a live golfer that was remotely near contention. So I'm not saying that you have to pick live golfers for these 4 events, but if I think you're looking to optimize picking a one and done, I think that it's a very good move to start by picking live golfers, or start by not picking live golfers and see just kind of how your selections crunch around it, right? So let's start off with the Masters. So the Masters, obviously the defending champion is Scottie Scheffler, right? However, not a whole lot of guys win the Masters twice in a row. It's very difficult to do. And Scottie also, he's prone to win 3 or 4 other events this calendar year. So I don't think I necessarily have to pick him to win the Masters when it's a tournament that's especially difficult to repeat at. Now, who does have a good history at the Masters is the guy who won it 2 years ago, traditionally. You know who won the Masters 2 years ago? Jon Rahm. So I'm going to pick Jon Rahm for this Masters. He has a pretty good history at Augusta, all things considered, especially when you look at the one victory. Was not great in his defense last year, but like I said, defending champions generally struggle a little bit at the Masters, especially Rahm last year really struggled in the majors, considering what his standard had been before his move to live and how unhappy he seemed on live, how poorly he played on live. Like, he was just a massive disappointment at the majors. I think this year he might finally have his schedule figured out and, have everything kind of optimized. I think he's going to come back better at the majors this year. But judging how he played last year, I would not fault you for not picking Jon Rahm personally, but I do think that he's the guy that I'm going to pencil in for the Masters at Augusta National. PGA Championship this year is being played in my home state of North Carolina, being played at Quail Hollow, which is normally the host of the Wells Fargo Championship. So the Wells Fargo Championship is not at Quail Hollow this year. More on that a little bit later. So Rory McIlroy is like the undisputed king of Quail Hollow. He won that tournament last year. His first PGA Tour win was at Quail Hollow. He just owns that golf course, right? Justin Thomas also won the last PGA championship that was at Quail Hollow. So if you're looking for 2 PGA Tour guys, you've got them 2. Xander Schauffele also has a very good history at Quail Hollow. So I really do think that there's certainly some options if you want to go with the PGA Tour guy, but I'm going to go with Bryson DeChambeau here at the PGA Championship. Bryson last year in the majors, he was great in the first 3. He was awful at the Open Championship, but he's always awful at the Open Championship. I think he is one of the best golfers in the planet. He's certainly one of the most important, culturally significant golfers on the planet right now. And I think Quail Hollow is a perfect course for him because it is a bomber's golf course. It's going to be a course where Bryson is going to be wailing driver from every tee, a lot of long iron approaches. And I just think that this is probably the best major venue for him this year. He hasn't quite figured out Augusta National just yet. I don't think that the next venue is a super good fit. And like I said, he's not a great Open Championship player. So I think you're going to want to use Bryson sometime before the season's over. And I think the place that makes the most sense for that is the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow. All right, now the US Open. Last year was at Pinehurst. Bryson DeChambeau was the champion, right? The US Open, because of how it changes sites, is really difficult to kind of parse through who to pick. This year it's at Oakmont. Was last at Oakmont in 2016. Dustin Johnson was the winner. Shane Lowry was quite relevant at that tournament. But I'm going to be picking Brooks Koepka at the US Open. When I think of Oakmont, I think of difficult, long, boring, par golf, right? Like if you just shoot even par at Oakmont, you're probably going to be playing pretty good. And I think that courses like that are really where Brooks Koepka excels. When you look at his U.S. Open championships, Aaron Hills was a little bit of a birdie fest, but the next year when he won at Shinnecock Hills, he won that tournament, and I believe he was above par. You think the PGA 2 years ago when he won at Oak Hill was a course where par was a good score. And I think that this is a really good place because what Brooks loves to do in the majors is hit fairways, hit greens in regulation, knowing that he's going to be giving himself like a 20 to 25 foot birdie putt and hope that he's going to roll a few of them in. But if not, he knows he's going to have his par. Just play very safe, very conservative golf and grind it out. I think that's what he's going to be able to do at Oakmont. So Brooks Koepka is my one and done pick for the Open Championship, or the U.S. Open, excuse me. Now moving over to the Open Championship, it's being played at Royal Portrush this year. Shane Lowry won it the last time it was at Royal Portrush back in 2019. Brooks Koepka was quite near the top of that leaderboard as well. Tommy Fleetwood was near the top of that leaderboard. So there's certainly a lot of options, even if you don't want to go with the live guy. Like I think the live guy that makes the most sense would probably be Brooks Koepka, but I just used him. So I'm going to use Tyrrell Hatton here at Royal Portrush. Royal Portrush, kind of compared to the other Open Championship venues, it's a little more aerial. It's a little more Americanized. And I do think that plays a little bit better to Tyrrell Hatton's game. And he is certainly a native of England. So I think that of the live guys that you can pick, I think he's probably going to be the best option outside of Brooks Koepka, because I do love Brooks Koepka at Royal Portrush as well. All right, so that does it for the 4 majors. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the signature events, right? So for the signature events, these are the ones that we were talking about where they're going to have an increased purse. We really want to make sure that we get these signature events right. And the first one is going to be at Pebble Beach. So one tool that I love to use is if you ever have been on datagolf.com, there's a super great tool on Datagolf called the Course History Tool, and it's entirely free. Datagolf is like one of the best free data websites for golf that you can have. And it's just this Course History Tool, it can kind of tell you who the best golfers are at every single golf course that is used on the PGA Tour. It's kind of insane, right? So last year at Pebble Beach, we had Wyndham Clark winning in 54 holes, right? With Ludwig Aubert, Matthew Pavone, Thomas Dietrich, Mark Hubbard rounding out your top 5. But when you look at like guys who have played well at this course in general, Ludwig Aubert actually has like the highest amount of strokes gained per round at Pebble Beach. Part of that's due to the fact that this is like a split course event with Pebble Beach and Spyglass Hill. And, that was his first appearance in that event last year. So it's kind of a small sample size there for Ludwig. But there's certainly some guys that have some success at this event that you can go to. Maverick McNeely has been very good at Pebble Beach. He's played here each of the last 5 years. Daniel Berger was pretty good at Pebble Beach prior to his injury. Jason Day is always good at Pebble Beach, it seems. T6 last year. Jordan Spieth has been really good at Pebble Beach. Wasn't all that great here last year. Patrick Cantlay is also really good at Pebble Beach. T11 here last year. So now let's go ahead and take a look back at our spreadsheet, right? So think about those names that I mentioned. Cantlay is an interesting one. Cantlay has like only 4 to 5 courses that I would consider him at over the course of the season. Pebble Beach is one of them. I would consider him at Riviera. I would consider him at the RBC Heritage, Harbortown. I would consider him at the Memorial. I would consider him at the BMW Championship because he won the last time it was at Caves Valley. So really, like with Cantlay, like if you use him here at Pebble Beach, there's only like 4 spots that I would be knocking him out from. And I do think that like it's a pretty good spot for Cantlay. But I would kind of rather save him from one of those other spots, if I'm being honest. So let's go ahead. I know it's difficult to defend at a PGA Tour event, but let's go ahead and pencil in Wyndham Clark for this one here at AT&T Pebble Beach. Wyndham Clark, when you think about courses that he excels at, he's really good in the state of California. He's really good at courses with wide fairways. And he's really good at courses with a lot of like where putting can win you tournaments. And Pebble Beach is one of those tournaments because Pebble Beach, the greens are so small. If you're on the green, you're going to have a chance to make a putt. So I think this is a pretty good spot for Wyndham Clark. He's going to be my selection at Pebble Beach. And I don't really feel like I'm wasting Wyndham Clark there. Even if he doesn't win, like there's not a whole lot of other natural spots to use Wyndham Clark. So I feel like that's a pretty good spot for him. Now, next up for the elevated events is going to be Riviera, the Genesis Championship, right? So that one is a little bit trickier. Riviera is a much more difficult course than Pebble Beach. It's also a course that, it's hosted a PGA Tour tournament for a long time. So this is a course where there should be a lot of history at. Why am I not seeing this on Data Golf? Oh, it's under the. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we're back at Riviera. So the guys who have played well here over the years, John Rahm, but he's on live now. We can't use him. Cameron Young's top 20 here 3 straight years in a row. Victor Hovland seems to always play good at Riviera. Will Zalatoris, Colin Morikawa, Max Homa, Xander Schauffele, all great at Riviera. Patrick Cantlay, pretty good at Riviera as well. All right, so now let's go back to our spreadsheet, right? So if I'm thinking about this tournament, Max Homa to me seems like a really logical pick, but Max Homa was so bad last year that it's really hard to feel confident about, picking him to come into form here at Riviera. So I think that that's kind of like a wait and see pick would be Max Homa. But if you don't want to pick Max Homa, then you can go somebody else right away. And I'm going to right away go with Colin Morikawa here at Riviera. Colin Morikawa, good in the state of California. He did have that runner-up finish at Riviera in 2022 to Joaquin Niemann. I think this is a pretty good spot for him. Great iron player, and this is a course that really does stress the irons. So Colin Morikawa is going to be my pick at Riviera. Next up is the Arnold Palmer Invitational taking place at Bay Hill. So this one is interesting because, this was the first of like Scotty's run last year where Scotty won it, right? But I don't really know if I necessarily want to pick Scotty. He's won it 2 of the last 3 years. Makes it really difficult when you think about winning a tournament 3 out of 4 years, right? So guys that have really good history here, we've got Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau, but he doesn't play here this year. Jordan Spieth has a really good history here, 4th, and 30th in 3 tries. Sung J M has been pretty good here. Max Homa's been pretty good here, actually. This might be another spot where we could wait and see on Max Homa. Patrick Cantlay, pretty good history here as well. Will Zalatoris, pretty good history as well. So here's what I'm going to do. This is a signature event. I don't think you necessarily want to go all the way down to Will Zalatoris for a signature event. I'm going to put Rory here. Rory, without us having Quail Hollow for the Wells Fargo, I don't see a whole lot of other natural landing spots for Rory unless you want to use him at a major. And the problem with using Rory at a major is you can also use the live guys there. So I'm going to go with Rory here at Bay Hill, and that is going to be my selection. Now, next up for the signature events is the Players' Championship, which is at TPC Sawgrass. Scotty Scheffler, the 2-time defending champion here at this event, which I do think is going to make him a super popular play here, at one and dones for this event because he's won it twice in a row. But it's really, really rare to win a tournament 3 times in a row. So he's not necessarily going to be the guy that I go with here. I'm going to be going a little bit outside the box. I think that this is one of 2 names that I'm going to put here. I either want to put Xander Schauffele or Hideki Matsuyama. Hideki has a very good history at TPC courses, very good history at difficult golf courses, of which this is one. Xander Schauffele was the runner-up here last year to Scotty. So I do think that Xander, he kind of, I don't want to say choked, but like he certainly had opportunities to win that tournament coming down. So I think this will be a pretty good spot to use Xander as well. But I'm going to go with Hideki. I think this is a great spot for him. And I honestly don't see a whole lot of other spots down the road where I'm going to want to use Hideki. So I can feel pretty good about that. Next signature event is going to be the RBC Heritage, which is taking place at Harbour Town. So now Harbour Town's a course with pretty darn sticky course history. Scotty Scheffler won it last year as well. This is another one that we were talking about where it's a very logical spot for Patrick Cantlay. He's finished 3rd or better here 3 years in a row. JT Poston also has a very good history here. Cam Davis, very good history here. Patrick Rogers, Jordan Spieth, very good history here. Colin Morikawa, pretty good history here. Matt Fitzpatrick, pretty good history here. The guy I'm really looking at though is Sahith Theegala, T5th and T2nd alone last year. So really there's a lot of options here at Harbour Town. This is a shorter golf course, so it kind of brings more guys into play. Thinking about everything we just said and looking at the spots that we have left, I'm going to put Patrick Cantlay here in this spot. With us kind of used up Pebble Beach, the Genesis. I really think we're running out of spots for Patrick Cantlay. So I think that our RBC Heritage is a pretty good spot for him in that regard. Now, the Wells Fargo Championship is taking place at the Philadelphia Cricket Club this year, which is not Quail Hollow. So this is going to be a brand new golf course for everybody. And when I think of like playing a brand new golf course, I want to get somebody whose game is adaptable, who's well-rounded, kind of good in all facets of their game. And when I think of that, I think of Xander Schauffele. So Xander Schauffele is going to be my pick at the Wells Fargo. And you can kind of see here with what I'm doing with these elevated events, I'm being super aggressive with the golfers near the top of the board. I'm making sure that I am deploying my best golfers at the events where they're going to win the most money. And I'm also kind of being super aggressive early in the season. I really want to use my guys early in the season while I know that they're playing good, and trust that there's going to be guys that open up later in the season that I can end up using. So Xander Schauffele at the Wells Fargo feels pretty good to me. Just like my next selection is going to feel good, I'm going to use Scotty Scheffler at the Memorial. He's the defending champ at the Memorial. He's also the best tee to green golfer in the world. And that is the course on the PGA Tour schedule that emphasizes tee to green play, probably more than anywhere else. And so I just think it's a perfect spot for Scotty. You're not asking him to go back to back to back somewhere. You're just asking him to go back to back at a course that is superbly set up for his skill set. All right, next up, we've got the Travelers Championship, which is an elevated event at the TPC River Highlands. This is one of the shorter golf courses on the PGA Tour. So this kind of brings in more names into play. Like, it doesn't really exclude a whole lot of guys. Last year, we had Scotty Scheffler winning this tournament in a playoff over Tom Kim. Last year, Akshay Bhatia, T5, Tom Kim second. Xander won this event in 2022. He was T13 last year. Patrick Cantlay, also really good at this event. So what I'm looking at here, with this being a course that kind of brings everybody into play, I don't really feel the need to burn somebody near the super top of the board here. Brian Harman actually has 4 straight top 9 finishes here. So Brian Harman has me a little bit intrigued. But I think I'm going to go with Tom Kim here. Actually, no, I'm going to go ahead and go Brian Harman here. There's not a whole lot of spots to use Brian Harman. I don't think you have to use Brian Harman, but I think that just a course that he's had 4 straight top 9s at, that's pretty darn enticing. Although, like I said, Tom Kim, also really good spot for him there. All right, next up, in terms of elevated events, we've got the FedEx Cup playoffs, which are the FedEx St. Jude and the BMW Championship. The FedEx St. Jude in Nashville is going to be taking place at TPC Southwind. This is a course that Scotty Scheffler did not win last year. Just kind of defaulting to saying that. Hideki Matsuyama won this last year. Will Zalatoris has great history here, T8 first and T12. In terms of other guys with good course history, Colin Morikawa's got pretty good course history. Tommy Fleetwood, Patrick Cantlay, Sam Burns, all pretty good at this course. Sahith Theegala, not bad at this course either. Victor Hovland, T2 last year. You know what? That's going to be my guy here. I'm going to go with Victor Hovland here at this spot. I definitely think I want to use Hovland at a signature event. He had a bumpy season last year, but I trust that he will have it figured out by the FedEx Cup playoffs next time around. And I think that's a pretty logical landing spot for him. Now the next event up is the BMW Championship, and this is taking place at Caves Valley. This is one of the longer courses on the PGA Tour. Last time it was here, we had Bryson DeChambeau and Patrick Cantlay going back and forth. Let me kind of look up the leaderboard real quick. 2022 BMW Championship leaderboard. Yeah, so Patrick Cantlay. Oh, I'm sorry. This was not the one that Bryson was in. Bryson was in the previous year. Oh, hold on. No, I'm looking up the wrong year. Hold on. There we go. I was looking up 2022 at Wilmington when it was 2021 that was at Cape Valley. So my bad. So yeah, it was Cantlay and Bryson in the playoffs. Sung J M, Rory McIlroy, Eric Van Rooyen rounding out the top 5. Sam Burns was in 8th. That's not a bad look for Sam Burns. So given the fact that I don't have Cantlay or McIlroy available to me, here's what I might actually do. I might look to kind of move Cantlay here. Yeah, let's do that. So we're going to switch up. We're going to move Cantlay to the BMW Championship, which means I need to find somebody for the RBC Heritage. Boom, I'm going to slide in Sahith Theegala at the RBC Heritage. Just like that. Yeah, and now we got it all covered. So there goes all of our signature events for the 2025 season. Now we can start going week by week, looking at some of these smaller purse events, some of the kind of lesser money, but still important. But if you're really looking to win one of these one and dones, you're really going to have to capitalize on the signature events. So let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to talk about the rest of the schedule. Now, before we continue, I do want to mention that there are places where you can get more from me. First off, like I said earlier, you can follow me on Twitter at MikePix. If you want to join our one and done, you need to let me know in the comments, or you need to reach out to me on Twitter so that way I can get you the invite. And honestly, the more the merrier. Like don't feel like you're taking somebody else's spot. I want to get this thing filled up. I want as many people in as possible. So if you want to play, like I said, it's probably going to be a $25 entry. It's probably going to be done on Fantasy Golf World Championships. Let me know so that way I can get you that invite. I'm also in the Fantasy Corner Discord. Link is in the description on YouTube as well as on the audio feed. The Fantasy Corner Discord is a place where a lot of really good, really smart people talk DFS for all kinds of different sports. If you're looking for a community to be a part of where you're talking daily fantasy, talking picks, talking strategies, talking plays, then it's just a great place to be, and I cannot recommend it enough. And if you like this golf content, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks. Every single week, I will be posting my core plays for golf DFS for the PGA Tour season. So that way you can kind of get, if you're just playing one and done, you can kind of get a little bit of a vibe of who I might lean for a one and done, but you can get some really good information there as well. So head on over to the Patreon. And if you're looking to try anything new this year, new sportsbook, new DFS site, new player prop site, whatever, head on over to signupexpert.com/MikesPicks. What they do is they have the best promo codes for new users for any sportsbook, player prop, or DFS site, and it's linked to my site when you do the signupexpert.com/MikesPicks. So you can also see what's synced to your location. It'll even sync to whatever state or province you are in. So if you're looking to try something new this PGA Tour season, that would be the place to go. All right, so let's continue. So we've used up a lot of the big guns already, right? So now we've got to kind of look at some of these smaller tournaments, and we got to get some kind of lesser known golfers in there, right? So first up, we got the Sony Open, which is at Wailea, which is in Hawaii. Last year, we had the dramatic playoff between Grayson Murray, Ben An, and Keegan Bradley. And honestly, I'm going to start right there with my pick. I'm just going to go Keegan Bradley right here. Keegan Bradley, we like him at short courses. We like him at par 70s. We like him in the Northeastern United States. And Wailea checks off 2 of those 3 boxes because it is not in the Northeastern United States. If I wasn't going with Keegan Bradley, like Russell Henley is like a course history king here, as is Corey Connors. So I think that both of those guys would make sense. But if Keegan plays in this event, that's going to be my guy. Which also, by the way, when you're looking at these smaller events, it's a lot harder to project and pick these events early because you don't know if a guy is going to be playing it year in, year out. So I'm kind of assuming that Keegan's going to play here, but I'm totally okay if I have to pivot off of that to somebody else. Now, next up, we've got the American Express tournament, which is at PGA West, which is actually a rotation between the Pete Dye Stadium course, the Nicklaus Tournament course, and La Quinta Country Club. This is the Birdie Fest of all Birdie Fests that was won by Nick Dunlap last year. So what I really want to target here is just a guy that I think will be good in a Birdie Fest. And the guy that I'm going to go with for this one, he almost won it last year before he put, I believe it was 2 balls in the water on 17. Sam Burns. There's not a whole lot of other natural spots for Sam Burns. He generally plays pretty well at the Valspar. He generally plays pretty well at the Charles Schwab at Colonial Country Club. So I think that if you're not going to use Sam Burns here at PGA West, I think that those would be the other 2 likely landing spots for him. So I feel pretty good about using him there. It's hard to project who's going to play in this event. Justin Thomas usually plays in it. That actually might not be a bad spot for Justin Thomas. But like there's probably going to be a whole lot of no names in this event too. Like you can really, that would be an event where you could play like down to somebody. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to swap Jason Day into this event. Jason Day is like the Pro-Am king. He plays really well at the American Express. He plays really well at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. So I'm going to move Jason Day in there so that way I can have Sam Burns later. Because now I've got to pick Torrey Pines. So Torrey Pines is a big boy golf course. It's long, it's difficult. Super thick, rough. Matthew Pavone won this event last year. The field at this tournament can kind of vary. I'm going to put Max Homa here. Like I said earlier, I'm kind of nervous about penciling in Max Homa anywhere, given how he ended the season and how poor his play was. But he generally always plays well in the state of California, and he has won at Torrey Pines before. So I feel pretty good about that one. Next up, we've got the Waste Management Phoenix Open, the People's Major at TPC Scottsdale. Nick Taylor won this event last year. Scotty Scheffler won it the year prior. Syed Thagala, I think, is a pretty good shout here at this event, but I have him used at RBC Heritage, so I can't use him here. So I'm going to put Justin Thomas here. I think it's a pretty good spot for JT. I think it's a pretty good spot for Tony Finau as well. But JT, I feel pretty good about that spot. JT actually ended the season better than people think. So I think that maybe you catch him early in the season. This could be a good spot for his first win. Next up, we've got the Mexico Open at Vedanta Vallarta, which was won by Jake Knapp last year. So Tony Finau was a guy that a lot of people were picking for this one event, like kind of preliminarily last year, as was Akshay Bhatia, because they both played really well in Mexico before, but neither of them ended up playing in this event. So this is a really difficult one to kind of judge who's going to play, because it's going to be one of the worst fields of the PGA Tour season, if I'm being totally honest. So looking at who played it last year, you had Jake Knapp, Sammy Valimaki, C.T. Pan, Steven Yeager, Justin Lauer, Patrick Rogers, Robert McIntyre, Chan Kim, Eric Van Rooyen, Andrew Novak, Carson Young, and Doug Yim as your top 10. Oh, Tony Finau did play this event last year. I stand corrected. He just finished 13th. He wasn't really super duper in contention. Finau might not be a bad pick here because it seems that he is committed to playing this event year in, year out. But given the list that we just saw, I'm going to go ahead and pencil in here. Do I want to go Yeager? I don't think I want to go Yeager. Do I want to go Yeager? Yeah, let's go ahead and go Yeager here. So Steven Yeager is a guy that I think is just going to have a pretty successful PGA Tour career at regular PGA Tour courses. He's not super accurate driver of the ball, but like in most PGA Tour courses, that's not going to impact you a whole lot. He's a hit or miss putter, which when he hits, he's going to win tournaments. And the rest of his game, his approach plays pretty good. His around the green plays pretty good. So I think that Yeager, pretty good look there at Mexico. I think that that's a decent look. Next up is the Cognizant Classic, formerly known as the Honda Classic at PGA National. This is one of the more difficult courses on the PGA Tour schedule. It is in Florida. It is generally a decent field. Like of all of the non-signature events, this will probably be one of the better fields. This one, the Valero, the Waste Management, the RBC Canadian Open generally gets a pretty good field, and the Scottish Open are probably going to be the best fields of the non-signature events. So anyway, looking at this course, looking at the history, we've got Austin Eckroat won last year, followed by Minwoo Lee, Eric Van Rooyen, David Skins, K.H. Lee, Shane Lowry, Jake Knapp, Cameron Young, Martin Laird, Alex Noren, Billy Horschel. Holy crap, this is a long list of guys at Team 9. I think Billy Horschel's a great look. He's a Florida guy. Pretty good history here. Cam Young, not a bad look either, shockingly. I'm going to go Shane Lowry, though. 3 top 5 finishes here, back to back to back. I feel like if you're not using Shane Lowry at the Open Championship, I feel like this is probably like the next most logical place to use him is at the Honda Classic, Cognizant Classic, excuse me. Next up, we have got the Valspar Championship. So the Valspar Championship is taking place at the Copperhead course. Sam Burns won this event back to back. Jordan Spieth has won this event. Patrick Reed has won this event. So there's a lot of like really good names that have played well here. Last year, the field was not all that great. Peter Malnati ended up winning. Cam Young, in his first appearance there, finished second. Taylor Moore won this event 2 years ago, by the way. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to pencil in. I'm going to pencil in Cameron Young. Cameron Young is a guy that's been super frustrating in his PGA Tour career, just hasn't been able to win one yet. So why not pick him to win one at a course where he had some success at last year, where the field's not going to be all that great? I think that's a pretty good spot for Cam Young. Next up is Houston, Memorial Park Golf Course. Steven Yeager won this one just barely over Scotty last year. So what's interesting enough is that the next tournament that we're going to talk about, the Valero Texas Open, was won by Akshay Bhatia. But I actually think that Memorial Park is a really good spot for Akshay. He played pretty well there last year, if my memory serves me. Yeah, T11 in his first appearance there last year. You also had Tony Finau finishing runner-up after winning the year prior. And Scotty Scheffler has a really good history of this event, by the way, but I'm not going to use Scotty Scheffler at this course. Aaron Rai has really good history as well. So I kind of like the idea of going Akshay or Rai, but I'm going to go ahead and go Finau here. I haven't used him yet. I don't think there's a whole lot of natural homes for him later on in the schedule. He has one at the Rocket Mortgage and at the 3M, but I feel like the Houston Open's a pretty good spot for Finau. Next up is the Valero Texas Open. This is the one that we were talking about, is at TBC San Antonio, won by Akshay Bhatia. In my opinion, the best television viewing tournament of last year, when you had the back nine of Denny McCarthy, where he just caught fire, and Akshay was like playing really well, but then he just caught up to him and forced it into a playoff. Rory McIlroy also played in that event last year. He never plays in this event. He finished third. Russell Henley finished fourth last year as well. But here's what I'm going to do this event. Jordan Spieth is like Mr. Valero Texas Open, one of the best course histories here out of anybody. So I'm going to go ahead and pencil in Jordan Spieth for this event if I can find him on my list. There he is. Yeah, so I'm going to pencil in Jordan Spieth for the Valero Texas Open, and I'm going to feel pretty good about that. All right, next up, we have the Byron Nelson at TPC Craig Ranch. This is just a straight up birdie fest. This is going to be one of the worst fields of the year. Honestly, you could pick somebody for this event preliminarily and the guy not even play it. There's two names that I'm considering here because these guys have consistently played this event and played well at it. That is Alex Noren and Byung-Hoon An. I haven't used An yet, so we're just going to go ahead and go On right here. Oh, I've moved him to the wrong spot. There we go. On at TPC Craig Ranch. Next up, we have the Charles Schwab, which is at Colonial Country Club. This is generally one of the better fields. This is a short course. It is a par 70, but it is a very difficult course. Scotty, Colin, Keegan, all finished top 5 here last year. Davis Riley won, though, which was kind of shocking. Sepp Straka was also top 5 here last year. Sung J M was T9 here last year. You know what? I'm going to go with Straka. Straka has a history of playing well at kind of these shorter positional golf courses. I do think that Straka is at a point in his career now where like you can use him with confidence in a one and done. So I feel pretty good about using Sepp Straka there at Colonial. Next up is the RBC Canadian Open in Toronto. So we don't know anything about TBC Toronto yet. Here's what I'm assuming though. I'm assuming it's a TPC course. I'm assuming it's going to be pretty short. I'm assuming the guys that generally play the Canadian Open are going to play there again. So I'm going to go ahead and go, do I want to go Tom Kim right here? I'm looking at the spots that are left for me, and the only ones that I think are left that Tom Kim is going to play are the Scottish Open and the Wyndham Championship. I'm going to save Tom Kim for the Wyndham. I'm going to go Aaron Rai here at the RBC Canadian Open. Aaron Rai, like, he's good at these short positional golf courses. He won the Wyndham last year. So I'm going to go Rai there, and I guess I kind of did bury the lead. I'm going to go ahead and put Tom Kim at the Wyndham. And now I've only got 4 events left. The next up that we've got is the Rocket Mortgage at Detroit Golf Club. Y'all probably saw where I was going with this one a little bit earlier. Akshay Bhatia I'm going to put here. He lost this event last year where he had a putt to win, but ended up 3-putting for the loss. If you followed my channel for a while, you know that I'm a huge fan of Akshay. He's a lefty like I am. I just think he's super talented. I think at some point he's going to win a major in his career. I think that at some point he is going to like just be one of the best golfers in the world. And so I think that this year, I think you're going to see at least one more win out of Akshay. And I think the Detroit Golf Club will be a good spot for it. Next up, we have the John Deere Championship. I think it's a John Deere Classic, right? It's being played at TBC Deere Run. This is generally a super weak field event. You had Davis Thompson winning this event here last year. You also had like a bunch of like really young guys, like kind of like come of age at this tournament. You had Luke Clanton, Michael Thorbjornsen, Ben Griffin, all in the top 5, Aaron Rai in the top 10. So like you generally see like this is like the breakout party for a young guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a young guy that I think might break out at this event. Let's go ahead. I don't want to just use the defending champion, use Davis Thompson. Let's go ahead. Let's go Matt McCarty. He won in the fall swing at the Black Desert Championship. I'm assuming he's going to play in all of the events this year because he's got to make sure that he gets enough points to keep his card. He also probably wants to make some money. So I think that that'd be a good breakout spot for Matt McCarty there at the John Deere. Next up, the Scottish Open. This one's actually one of the easier ones to me, if I'm being totally honest. Robert McIntyre. Going ahead and putting him there. He won the event last year. He is Scottish, was runner-up to Rory McIlroy 2 years ago. Just seems like a super easy, supernatural pick to put Robert McIntyre at the Scottish Open. And then next up, we have the 3M Open, which is TPC Twin Cities in Blaine, Minnesota. This is generally not the greatest field because it requires a lot of travel coming off of the Olympics. Last year, Jonathan Vegas won it. Tony Finau has won this event before. It's one of his best courses. Max Grazerman was runner-up last year. Finau has really good history here when you look at it in totality. Emiliano Grillo, good history here when you look at it in totality. Lee Hodges won this event 2 years ago. Here's what I'm going to do with TBC Twin Cities. I'm going to go ahead and put I'm going to move Finau there, actually. I'm going to switch Finau from the Houston Open to TBC Twin Cities because what I've realized that I did in playing this all out, I haven't used Ludwig Oberg, and he's one of the 5 best golfers in the world. And so I really he would be a guy that, like, I think he's good at, like, I think he's going to be good at short golf courses, even though he's super long off the tee. I think he's a really good wedge player. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move Wyndham Clark off of Pebble Beach. I'm going to put Ludwig at Pebble Beach. I'm going to move Finau back to Memorial Park. I was thinking of putting Ludwig at Memorial Park, but I don't know if Ludwig's going to play at Memorial Park, the Houston Open. So at the 3M Open, I'm going to go ahead and put Sungjae Im. I feel pretty confident that Sungjae will play in that event, and he has a pretty good history here. Boom, there we go. So what you see that we've just done is we picked the whole season, and what I've left myself with is when you look at like the golfers that are available, since I moved him to the bench, Wyndham Clark is available. You could argue that if you didn't watch the full show that Ludwig would have been available there, but now it's Wyndham Clark that's available there. I've got Tommy Fleetwood available. I did use Bryson, so I'm canceling that one out. And then you've got Tyrrell Hatton, Billy Horschel. No, I did use Tyrrell Hatton at the Open. I double listed Tyrrell Hatton. That's why. Billy Horschel, Russell Henley, Adam Scott are all open. Sam Burns is still open, by the way. I didn't realize I hadn't used Sam Burns. I feel like I talked about him a lot. So anyway, what you can see is like there are golfers that you're going to leave open. And so there's ways that you can certainly optimize this. But what I really want to do is I really want to make sure that I'm aggressive. And by really going out and planning it out full season like this, you can see who you might want to use at certain courses. And you can see just how aggressive you can be. So anyway, that's going to do it here for this episode. Hopefully we gave you guys plenty of good advice, good tips, good strategy in order to play in a one and done for golf next season. Like I said, if I'm kind of summarizing this whole thing, use great players and live players at the majors. Use the best players at signature events. Don't necessarily pick a guy to go back to back, and be aggressive, because there's going to be guys that develop as breakout candidates later in the season. I've realized that my years of doing this, there was years where like I had Scotty available for like the last two tournaments, and like he didn't win them. So, it's not worth saving Scotty if he's not going to get a win. Like, use your guys early when you know that they're in good form and you know they're coming in good shape. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, y'all. Like I said earlier, if you want to make a copy of that spreadsheet, the link is in the description on YouTube as well as on the audio. If you want to join our one and done, let me know in the comments or reach out to me on Twitter. But that's going to do it here for this episode, y'all. Really much looking forward to playing one and done this season. Hopefully you guys are as well. Hopefully we gave you guys plenty of information that you can use to build a winning one and done here this season. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.